Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a former Boeing 737 pilot and a member of the PMDG 737 tech team. In today's tutorial, let's go over the before start procedure, the engine start and the after start procedure. We are picking this up right after the final CDU pre-flight procedure, and before we go into all of this, there are a few small checks that we do. First of all, verify that the doors are closed and that your performance and weight and balance has been completed. Ensure that the phones are off. Ensure that the windows are closed, the flight deck door is closed, and that your passengers have been seated, which is indicated by the no smoking switch being put into the on position. When all of that is done, we can call for the safety inspection and before start checklist down to the line. When the checklist has been completed, we are going to call for pushback clearance. To do that, we are going to switch the transponder into the alt reporting off mode, which enables transponder mode alpha, which makes your airplane show up on the air traffic controller's ground radar. Now, once the push and start clearance is obtained, we are going to do the items below the line, which namely are air conditioning packs off, verify or turn the APU bleed on, and anti-collision light on. And then we are going to do the before start checklist below the line. So once all of that is completed, we are ready for our pushback. Note that once the APU bleed is turned on, you are going to get a master caution, air conditioning, and that is the dual bleed light up here, indicating that you got two bleed sources selected. Note that the switch is a little bit dumb. It doesn't look at the actual system status, it just looks at are the switches on, and that is the case. So that caution is completely normal and can simply be clicked away. So our pushback clearance has been received, so let's go into GSX and click continue pushback and facing east. Note that GSX loves to rape your FMC, so always go back to the lax page where it is supposed to be. So we're cleared to start the pushback and the parking brake has been released. Note that if your pushback does not start at this point, then you have probably forgotten the chocks and still have the chocks in position. So always make sure that they are actually removed. Alrighty, and now we're starting the pushback. So let's go ahead and take a few moments to talk about the engine start. First of all, when do we initiate the engine start? Generally, we want to be clear of the entire gate area. Imagine starting the engines here and hitting those halts over here with your jet blast. That would not be good. So always make sure that you are clear of the gate area. Normally you want to at least be beyond the red line of the gate, which you will eventually see somewhere. Today it's rather far away, but in other cases it might be immediately behind the gate. So be sure that you're clear of all of those. A general good moment to start the engines in the Boeing 737 is when the pushback tuck starts the final turn onto your final position, so like right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the engine start. Engine start is a manual thing in the 737. You do not have an automatic engine start like you have on the 777 or the Airbuses. So let's go ahead and start the engines. The start sequence is always going to be 2 then 1, so engine number 2 first, engine number 1 second. In order for engine start to work, you need to have a bleed source, so APU bleed needs to be on, the packs need to be off, and in order to have bleed in the right system, the isolation valve also needs to be open. So let's go ahead and start engine number 2. We are going to turn the engine start selector into the ground position and start our timing. You will see that N2 is going to increase first, and now we're waiting for oil pressure and N1. Before we see all of those, we are not going to add fuel into the engine. By the time that N2 reaches 25%, we are going to turn the engine fuel lever on. We observe the engine valve and spar valves go bright then off, which indicates that they have opened, and now we can observe that our engine is starting. At about 52%, the cockpit voice recorder switch is going to spring to the auto position, which is the first click we will hear. And then we got the second click at 56% when the start valve closes, and then we monitor engine number 2 to ensure that everything is stabilized, and then we can start engine number 1. Note that if we have especially hot conditions, or if the cabin is very cold, you could do an isolated pack procedure, which means taking the isolation valve, switching that to closed, and then the right pack into auto, so that engine number 2 is already starting to warm up or cool down the passenger cabin. That is an optional procedure. You can do that, you don't have to. Now, let's go ahead and start engine number 1, and we do the same thing again. Engine start switch into the ground position, start the timer, and now we observe N2 is increasing. Also note that our pushback is completed, so let's set the park and brake. So, oil pressure is increasing, N1 is increasing. We got 25%, so fuel lever on. Observe the valves go bright and then off. And now our engine is igniting. And that's engine number 1 starting. Note you got that red indicator on the EGT gauge here, which indicates the maximum EGT for the engine start. Basically, when that thing goes away, that indicates that your engine start has completed. When the engine start is complete, we are going to switch on the generators and switch off the APU, and now we do nothing, except to reset the timer maybe. So before we do anything else, we want to wait until the pushback equipment is clear. So always ensure that you see the tug, you see the tow bar, unless it is a lifting tug, and you see the ramp agent who is holding the gear pin in her hands. And call for an ambulance if she gets run over by the tug. So only now, when the clear signal is received, which it is now, we are going to do the before taxi procedure, which is to verify the generators are on, APU is off, engine start switches into continuous, probe heat on, anti-ice as needed. And remember, engine anti-ice is going to be used when you got a temperature of plus 10 degrees or less and visible moisture. So if it was raining or if we had very low clouds or fog, then we would turn the engine anti-ice on now. Then we go on to the packs, which we switch in auto. The isolation valve also goes in auto, APU bleed off. Then we move down to the main panel, select flaps 5. And do note that you've got click spots on the numbers over here. So if you want the flaps on 5, simply click the number 5. And that's a nice little shortcut to move the flaps. Then we are moving up, verify that our secondary engine indications are displaying OK. Check the system display to ensure that you've got proper hydraulic pressure. And then we can clear the system display, do the recall, and finally we can do the flight control check. For the flight control check, do slow but deliberate movements. So we go all the way full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral, and now the rudder, full left, full right, and neutral. If you are using separate rudder and tiller axis, then be sure to hold the tiller so that it is not moving while you check the rudder, otherwise the nose wheel will be scrubbing across the ground, which we do not want. So once the before taxi procedure is complete, we call for and do the before taxi checklist, and when that is done we can call ready to taxi with our traffic control, and that is going to be a separate dedicated tutorial. So thank you very much for watching everyone, I do hope you learned something today. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on the channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.